Meet the man who put the world on a grid. René Descartes wasn't just a philosopher. He was the ultimate disruptor. Before him, the medieval worldview relied on tradition and dogma. Descartes wiped the slate clean with a radical idea. Doubt everything until you find a truth that is clear and distinct. By merging algebra with geometry, visualized here through the Cartesian plane, he gave us a universal language for nature. This wasn't just math, it was a revolution. He replaced because it's tradition with because it's provable. From planetary orbits to the pixels on your screen, we are living in a world Descartes designed. He is the architect of modernity, the man who built the foundation of reason. Imagine a world where everything you believed was literally crumbling. By the 17th century, Europe's foundations weren't just cracked, they were shattered. First, the 30 Years' War turned the continent into a slaughterhouse, ending the illusion of a unified Christendom. Then, the Copernican upheaval evicted Earth from the center of the universe, leaving humanity adrift. Finally, the scholastic tradition hit a dead end. Ancient dogmas simply couldn't explain a world seen through new telescopes. This is the wreckage René Descartes inherited. He realized you can't build a future on a broken past. To find the truth, he decided he had to tear the whole house down and start from zero. Descartes didn't just invent the coordinate system, he lived it. From point A in France, where he learned exactly what to doubt, to point B on the battlefield, where a series of dreams revealed the fundamental principles of a new science. He spent his most productive decades, point C, as an intellectual ghost in the Dutch Republic, using its tolerance to pen his masterpieces in peace. Finally, point D marks his fatal move to Stockholm to tutor a demanding queen, a journey that would be his last. His life was more than a biography, it was a series of coordinates mapping the birth of the modern mind. Sometimes, you have to go off the grid to build a new one. To find a foundation that couldn't be shaken, Descartes used a wrecking ball of doubt, filtering human knowledge through three increasingly brutal layers. First, he blocked the senses. They deceive us with every optical illusion. Second, he blocked the waking world. How do you prove you aren't dreaming right now? Finally, he imagined an evil demon so powerful it could even make $2 plus 2 equals $5. After stripping everything away, only one indivisible drop of truth remained. I am thinking. Even if a demon is deceiving me, I must exist in order to be deceived. This is the bedrock of modernity. Cogito Ergo Sum. I think, therefore I am. This is the moment the world changed. The medieval mind relied on external authority, tradition, and the belief that every object had a divinely ordained purpose. Descartes triggered a total rupture. He moved the source of truth from the institution to the individual reasoning mind. He transformed our view of the universe from a spiritual mystery into a cold, mechanistic, clockwork machine that we can measure and predict. Finally, he replaced ancient logical puzzles with radical doubt and mathematical deduction. We transitioned from being passive observers of tradition to the active architects of reality. This matrix isn't just history, it's the blueprint for the modern scientific world. Archimedes said that with a long enough lever and a place to stand, he could move the earth. Descartes found that place. His radical doubt wasn't meant to be a permanent home, it was a cleansing tool. He was searching for one immovable fact to serve as his fulcrum. When he found the cogito, the certainty of his own existence, he finally gained the leverage to lift the massive weight of modern science. By securing this one tiny point, he shifted the human story. Truth was no longer a decree handed down from above. It became a logical masterpiece built from the inside out. He didn't just think, he moved the world. Even the most revolutionary foundations face a stress test. Descartes thought he'd found bedrock, but the critics were waiting with their own wrecking balls. Gassendi and Kierkegaard spotted a logical loop. By saying, I think, Descartes smuggled in the I before he'd even proven it. Lichtenberg and Nietzsche went further, arguing that I is just a linguistic habit. To them, it wasn't I think, but simply thinking is occurring, an impersonal event, like rain. Finally, the empiricists scoffed at his leap of faith. They saw his reliance on a benevolent God as a convenient deus ex machina to bridge the gap between his inner mind and the physical world. The house of reason was built, but the ground was already shifting. To build a universe governed by physics, Descartes performed a radical surgery on reality. He split existence into two distinct realms. First, res cogitans, the mind. Its core attribute is thinking, and it is indivisible. You cannot cut a soul or a thought in half. Second, res extensa, matter. This is the world of extension, size, shape, and motion. Unlike the mind, matter can always be broken down further. By isolating consciousness from the physical, Descartes stripped the world of its medieval magic and mysterious purposes. He turned the universe into a geometric playground, where everything could finally be measured, calculated, and predicted. Reality became a machine, and for the first time, we held the blueprints. If the mind is pure thought and the body is just a machine, how do they actually talk to each other? This is the famous ghost in the machine problem. Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia famously pierced Descartes' theory with a sharp critique. How can something immaterial, with no surface or weight, possibly cause a physical body to move? Descartes' solution was the pineal gland, a tiny bridge in the brain. He proposed that the mind directs animal spirits through this gland to trigger the body's mechanical gears. While this saved his dualism on paper, it created a philosophical storm that still rages today. How does a silent thought become a physical action? We're still looking for the ghost in the gears. For centuries, mathematicians were trapped behind a wall built by the ancients. Their only tools were the straight edge and the compass. This worked for simple shapes, but when faced with the pappus problem, finding points relative to multiple lines, they hit a dead end. Once the problem grew beyond 4 lines, it became mechanical and impossible to visualize in our 3D world. In 1632, Descartes smashed through this barrier. He realized that geometry shouldn't be limited by physical drawing tools, but redefined by algebraic equations. By turning curves into calculations, he broke the ancient wall and opened the door to infinite dimensions. Math was no longer just a matter of drawing, it became a matter of solving. In 1637, with his masterpiece La Géométrie, Descartes achieved the ultimate marriage: algebra and geometry. Before this, shapes were purely visual. After this, they were numerical. He reinterpreted arithmetic as operations on line segments, allowing geometry to be expressed through polynomial equations. He even introduced the exponential notation, like x squared and x cubed, that remains the global standard today. The result was a total liberation of mathematics. Any curve created by precise motion could finally be expressed as a finite algebraic equation. By translating shapes into numbers, Descartes didn't just change how we see geometry. He gave us the language to calculate the universe. Math was no longer just an art, it became a law. René Descartes didn't just leave behind a set of ideas, he left a universal method. His life's work was a twin-engine mission to build a new science. On one side, we have the justification, his metaphysical proof that the rational human mind is actually capable of discovering absolute truth. On the other, the execution, the physical tool of analytic geometry, providing the precise language needed to measure and map that truth. When these two gears lock together, they create a mechanistic universe. It's a world where every natural phenomenon, from the heartbeat to the stars, can be deciphered by human equations. By uniting the mind's certainty with the machine's precision, Descartes didn't just study the world, he gave us the keys to master it. Every revolution has its casualties, and for the scientific revolution, it was the architect himself. In 1649, Descartes made a fateful decision. He accepted an invitation to the court of Queen Christina of Sweden. It was a clash of worlds. Descartes was a man of the morning, famously spending his hours in bed thinking and writing until noon. The queen, however, was a force of nature who demanded her philosophy lessons at 4 a.m. in a freezing, unheated library. The brutal Swedish winter and the grueling schedule broke him. On February 11, 1650, at just 53 years old, René Descartes died of pneumonia. The man who mapped the infinite was finally conquered by the finite cold. In the end, even the strongest opposition couldn't stop the Cartesian revolution. In 1663, the Church placed his works on the index of prohibited books, but the move backfired. By labeling his ideas dangerous, they inadvertently signaled that Cartesianism was the only paradigm that truly mattered. Descartes provided the path forward. His rationalist framework paved the way for Leibniz to discover calculus, Spinoza to expand modern ethics, and Kant to redefine human knowledge. This was the final victory. Descartes swung the wrecking ball on the medieval world, and the entire architecture of the modern scientific mind was built upon his blueprint. We don't just use his math, we live in his reality. We often think of history as a series of past events, but with René Descartes, it was the installation of a new operating system for the human mind. His legacy isn't found in dusty archives, but in the very fabric of our modern existence. Every time you use a GPS map to navigate or interact with a 3D digital world, you are moving through a Cartesian grid. Every pixel and every coordinate on your screen is a direct tribute to his wonderful discovery from 1619. Beyond mathematics, he taught us the power of reductionism. By breaking complex problems into smaller, manageable pieces, he provided the blueprint for modern engineering and the scientific method itself. Today, as we stand on the threshold of artificial intelligence, we are still chasing his ghost. We are trying to map the mystery of consciousness into the logic of silicon, a journey that began the moment Descartes dared to doubt everything. He didn't just find the truth, he gave us the coordinates to find it for ourselves.